Hey, thanks for stopping by. And in this video here, let's see, today is Wednesday, July the 12th. In this video here, we're going to pick up where we left off sort of in the with the last video when we were discussing the beginning of the creation process with the earth. And after we've discussed the premortal world and how things were before the earth was created, and all the things that pertain to that part of the whole plan. So we're up to, the day 6, or the 6,000 years, because every year is 1,000 years in God's time. So we've done all the creation of the earth, separated the land from the water, etc., and got the plants all going, and everything's looking good. And after each creation period, God does say that things are good. He looks at what he's created, what he's done, and it's all good. Day 6, it's time to create man. At the end of the creation of the animals, then this is where we get into creating men and women, both in the image of God. And the gods, plural, are men and women, gods and goddesses. Just like here on the earth, we have a mother and a father. So it is in the eternities, in the premortal world, we had a mother and a father. It's simply the process of creating the same people with flesh and blood here on the earth. So we have earthly mothers and fathers. But there's not a lot of talk in the Gospels and the Scriptures about a heavenly mother like our Heavenly Father. And that's because it's not really necessary to discuss that. And as we go forward, it will become more obvious when we get into the king-vassal relationship that the Father has with his children on earth, and how that relates in the man-woman paradigm and their relationship to one another and with Father as well. And we'll go through that. We'll explain that a little bit further. It has to do with all the covenant relationships that will allow us to return to the Father. And it's important to remember that these are the things that Father says. Whatever we have here in the Scriptures are there for a reason. Again, a lot of people think that it's just a bunch of interesting stories, but there is nothing in the Scriptures that wasn't put in there intentionally by God, by Father, for one purpose or another. And more often than not, there are at least 2 and oftentimes multiple layers, metaphoric, different levels and layers of understanding and mysteries that are exposed and revealed within those that have been kept hidden from mankind from the beginning. And now it is the time of the restoration of all things. So now things are being restored. The information is being revealed. And the things that you need to know to be able to pass the test are available. It's a matter of finding that information and then doing what needs to be done, whatever the plan requires, whatever God commands. Then that's what you've got to do if you have any desire to return back to the kingdom of Father in the glory of the Son, the resurrection of the glory of the Son. So we get to the point where it's time now, after the rest of the earth and all the things therein and thereon have been created. Now it's time to populate the earth with God's children. We went from being in a spirit form in the premortal world, and now we're coming to the earth for the sole purpose of getting physical bodies to be able to experience those things, the pleasures, pain, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the things that go along with that. And so we have to come here for that purpose and to get those bodies, these bodies that we have now. So, day 6, God created man in his own image. And I'll start out here in verse 27 of first chapter of Genesis. Read a little bit from the King James Version. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. So I'm not going to get into all this spastic gyrations of pronouns and were they called them, were they called they, was it he, she, them, they, it, whatever. So it's very simple. It's only in recent times where the simpleness has been construed and dissected and remixed and adulterated and bastardized by Satan and his minions, so that some people who are foolish are confused with all that, and they end up believing that they can be something that they're not. So it's important to know that there are two creations, male and female. You can choose to be a chicken if you want, or you can identify as a rooster or a hen. And if you do, then please lay some eggs so that we have something, to eat from that. Now, I could say I identify as king of the world, and my pronouns are highness and majesty. But that doesn't mean that anybody's going to bow down to me and that they're going to serve me and worship me and do whatever I say, and I get to make all the rules for the rest of the world. I could say that. I might even believe that. But is anybody else going to believe it? Is anybody else going to change their way because of something I believe, something that I pulled out of my butt? No. And that's the way it is with all the other foolishness. It's all foolishness. It's stupidity. God created male and female. That's it. You're one or the other. Now, there are conditions, physical conditions, where people are born that maybe have both sexual organs that would kind of be confusing. But you get down to the DNA level of it, and you're either XX or XY chromosomes that constitute the entire makeup of the body. Now, you can alter that, mess around with that. Science is doing that now. They're making human hybrids and clones and messing around with the DNA and all that stuff. And, so they can pretty much create what they want. God created things, and it was done rather naturally. And science can do the same thing. Does that make it right? No, it doesn't make it right. If God says A and the scientists are doing Z, and they're on the opposite end of the spectrum, well, then they're going to have to be punished one day for what they've done that was contrary to what God said they ought to be doing. I got to get my head on straight. So just because you can doesn't make it right. Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's kind of like the Frankenstein, right? Okay, so we're gonna alter humans. Okay, it doesn't make it right. That's why the earth was destroyed in the days of Noah, because the humans were being manipulated with their DNA with animals and other things that were offensive to God, because they could not house his spirits. It was an abomination to him. And so the world, save a handful of people, were destroyed. So, yeah, sure, go ahead if you want to believe you're a monkey, a chicken, a rooster, a single-celled amoeba. You want to identify as the main chimpanzee in all the jungle. You want to be a lion, a bear, a tiger, a sloth. I know a lot of people that are like sloths. They could easily pass for sloths and slugs. That doesn't mean anything. It's just a delusion in your own mind. It's a mental illness. In the book of mental illnesses that all the psychiatrists use, up until this most recent version, that was a mental disorder. Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder. Now, you can change that and say, well, okay, now the book reads differently. Okay, I don't care. Nobody cares. God sure doesn't care, because he's the final author. He is the first and the last. He's the one that gets to make all the choices. You get nothing. So if you want to go ahead and pervert God's work, well, that's fine, but you got to pay the consequences. Now, you can continue to believe that there are no consequences to that, but there certainly are. Everything you do, there's a choice consequence. There's an action/reaction. And that's what the world's about. That's why you're here, because you get to decide for yourself, are you going to be obedient to God's words and command and have fidelity and make those covenants and keep those covenants and go back to the kingdom of the Father in the resurrection of the glory of the Son? Or are you going to believe all the stupid lies and the nonsense that Satan's going to try to convince you to believe so that you'll be rejected? You still get a resurrection, but it's not going to be in the kingdom of Father. It's going to be in the kingdom of the resurrection that is like the moon, or the one that's like the stars. So whatever you want to do, that's fine. And it certainly doesn't bother me, because at the end of the day, that's part of the plan. The part of the plan by default is for you to fail. God knows that most people are going to come to the earth and believe this stupid stuff, and they're going to try to claim plausible deniability and say, oh, well, I was deceived. I was tricked. I was fooled. All the adults told me that I could be a girl, but I'm really a boy. You know, it's like me saying, oh, I could be a woman. Well, no, I couldn't be a woman. I'm a man, and I am perhaps one of the last of the USDA grade, AAA choice U.S. male, all testosterone, very little estrogen, that believes that. So no, I can't be a female. And if you were born a male, you can't be a female. It's that simple. Delude yourself if you want, but that's all part of the plan, is for you to be fooled and miss out on returning to God, because very, very, very few people can be trusted with the knowledge and understanding of the universe. So those people have to be weeded out. It's a perfect plan. It's God's perfect plan. So anyway, let's go on. We're nearing the end of chapter 1. The first 2 chapters are really quite interesting, and there's a lot of conversation just in these 2 chapters of what they actually mean and what's going on here. So anyway, let's go up here where he creates male and female out of the dust, the dirt, metaphorically the clay, because in the Bible and other places it talks about how we are the clay and Father is the potter who uses the clay to make the vessels for his spirit children. So think of us as the clay and being made up out of the elements of the earth and being clay. So after this is over, after the creation in Genesis 1, then it says in verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. That's part of it. This is the part where he's commanding the male and the female that they, like all the other creation, have to reproduce. The plants are all going to reproduce with seeds. The animal's going to reproduce in the flesh through sexual intercourse. And man and woman, the male and female, have to do the same. So he's given them the commandment. Then, at the same time, it's also important to point out that God is doing this in the covenant way. All the creation story is done through covenant. So when he's telling the male and the female that they need to reproduce, to multiply and replenish the earth, this is a covenant. This is something he's telling them. And with that covenant, there is always conditions. And God says, these are the commandments. You have to multiply and replenish the earth. But then there'll be a benefit to you by doing that. And of course, the benefit is that the posterity of having the children and having those children then enables us here in the tabernacle of flesh on the earth to experience what it's like to have children. Now, a lot of people aren't going to have children. We'll get to that. But that's part of the plan, is to have children, to understand what that's all about, to become more like father and mother in the heavenly realm. So then he says, in addition to that, multiply and replenish the earth, he says, subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. And so God is covenanting with Adam and saying, okay, multiply and replenish the earth. I'm making you Lord and Master over everything, including the earth. So now you are the determining factor. You, Adam, which is going to be his name, you, Adam, are the first man. You are the father of the human race. So this is your covenant. Multiply and replenish the earth. And as a result, you are the apex, top level apex, predator, whatever, cultivator, whatever it happens to be. You, Adam, are in charge of everything, of all this creation, and you subdue it. Okay, it's not a matter of the earth subduing us and we being subject to the earth, to the animals, to the dirt, to whatever, the minnows, the slugs, the snails. Doesn't matter. And that's one of the problems today, is how Satan is destroying mankind, is he's convinced people that the earth has as much right as do the humans, you and I, the descendants of Adam. And it's clearly not the case. This whole climate change stuff, the climate has changed throughout the course of the earth. It's changing all the time. Now, if man has any kind of a part in that, that's fine, because that's part of the deal. God says, this is for you. You subdue it. It's yours. You got to be accountable for it, but it's yours. So Satan, trying to thwart God's efforts, will say, what? The opposite. So he's trying to destroy God's plan. And by doing the opposite, that's how his plan is trying to come to fruition, to thwart God's plan. So if we have this covenant relationship with Father, this is our earth, this is our space, this is our covenant blessing, our promised land, then why in the world would we let some pinhead idiot like Satan thwart God's purposes and we be a willing participant in that? So no, it's not that way. We don't need to bow down to the scientists, Satan's dominion, and Satan's demonic entities, and science, which is one of his greatest tools of deception. It's the antithesis of what God says. So science says, no, everybody's got a right to it. The rest of the animals, the crickets, whatever it happens to be, the earth itself. So we got to take care of the earth, but they don't take care of the earth. They're the biggest problem on the earth. And we'll see that. It's that the people who are the biggest problems are always the ones who are projecting their evil upon the rest of us. So Satan and his minions are always directing and reflecting their demonic desires upon the rest of us, projecting that upon us to make it look like we're the bad guys. But in order to keep the covenants with God, we have to realize this. We are the apex. There is nothing greater than us on the earth. It's ours for the doing with what we want, but we need to be good stewards. But God clearly states, this is yours. Male, female. You can't change that. This is for us. Can't change that. This is our promised land. It's a covenant blessing given to Adam and his posterity. So you can't change that. You've got to decide, are you on the side of God or are you on the side of Satan? Are you on the side of God and his people, or are you on the side of Satan and his demons, his demonic entities like scientists and preachers? You got to pick one, or you're going to get stuck in the ditch with the blind guides that you subscribe to. So, and if you do that, okay, Say loving. That's no skin off my back whatsoever. And again, it's important to remind people, like, this has nothing to do with me. Whether you do it or not is not helping me. I've got a job to do. My job is here to come here and explain the truth and explain all these deeper level understanding of God's plan, the scriptures, and what it all means. What you do with that, that's entirely up to you. I'm simply here to divide the goat from the sheep. If you want to be a goat, be one. It's not going to affect me. If you want to say bad things about me, go ahead. If you want to make your own videos and have your own channels in different places where you can badmouth me and God and try to make reasons why I'm telling you lies, go ahead. You're just helping me, right? The people who want to come behind me and badmouth me, and you want to say bad stuff about me, it doesn't matter what religion or what you believe, science, technology, whatever, and you want to come along and badmouth me, you're helping me. So please do it. You're just making my job easier because I'm here to separate the goats from the sheep. And if you help me with that, thank you. Because it's got to get done. I'm just here to facilitate that. So pick and choose. You're going to follow God or not. And if you are, you're all in or you're all out. You can't say, well, I want to return to God, but this whole creation story, I kind of like the Big Bang Theory that science has, and it just makes more sense. I was taught that in school. Okay. You're either all in or you're all out. Pick and choose. You don't get to believe the creation story and then deny other parts of the gospel. All in or all out. That's the way it is with God. All or nothing. So get that through your noodle, because God is not going to accept anybody unless they're all in. Thanks for stopping by.